Draymond Green's toxic leadership has led to the collapse of the Warriors dynasty.
And now we got a fight. We have a legitimate fight here. And this is...
But things could get even worse for the Warriors' future if Draymond doesn't change his leadership ways. First, let's see how Draymond built and then ruined a dynasty. Forcing Kevin Durant to leave. Draymond is considered to be one of the smartest basketball players in the game. Perhaps the smartest play he's ever made is to call Kevin Durant to join the Golden State Warriors. Draymond famously made the call after the Warriors blew a 3-1 finals lead to LeBron James and the Cavs. But with KD, the Warriors became an instant dynasty and were considered one of, if not the best team ever assembled. They rolled through their competition, winning back-to-back championships, with KD capturing both finals MVPs. But when you have all of these personalities on one team, things are bound to go bad. The trouble started on the November 13, 2018 game between the Warriors and Clippers. With the game tied at 106 apiece, Draymond refused to pass the ball to KD and instead dribbled into traffic and lost the ball. This led KD to yell at Draymond for not passing the ball, prompting an explicit-filled exchange on the bench. During this rant, Draymond called KD several names and even said that they didn't need him to win. Draymond was fined $120,000 by the Warriors organization for his treatment of Kevin Durant. However, the relationship was fractured beyond repair. Quickly afterward, news stories popped up questioning Draymond's leadership abilities and the possible consequences of this blowup. There was finally a chink in the armor. KD had already been criticized heavily for joining the Warriors, and with Draymond's comments and attitude, it all but secured his exit out of the Bay. There were other incidents during that year, especially if you were a body language expert, that hinted at the strained relationship between KD and Draymond. And once the season ended, KD officially left the Warriors. So you can point at Draymond for being both the catalyst for creating the dynasty and also the reason for breaking it. This wouldn't be the first time he ran a teammate out of the Warriors. In fact, he did one teammate so dirty that he got his wedding invite canceled.
How much did our argument against the Clippers drive you to ultimately lead the Warriors?
It wasn't the argument, it was the way that everybody, Steve Kerr, act like it didn't happen.
Beef with Harrison Barnes. Draymond and Harrison Barnes' relationship started out well, as the two came to the Warriors in the same draft class, but things soured after the Warriors debacle in 2016. In particular, the fact that Draymond went out of his way to recruit a guy who would be taking over Barnes' position. Even though that was the right move, as obviously KD is much better than Barnes, that is still a harsh thing to do to a teammate, a brother of yours. And Barnes is someone who remembers when you slight him, as when he got married, he invited all of his former Warriors teammates except for Draymond. And Draymond's pettiness might only be second to his competitive spirit, as Draymond also remembered this and made sure to bring up the fact that Barnes missed a crucial three-pointer during the 2016 collapse after Game 4 of the playoffs in 2023. During that game, the Warriors were playing the Kings and the game came down to the last bucket, and Barnes missed the chance to win it for the Kings. Draymond commented afterward that they had seen this move before, referencing the missed shot in the 2016 finals. Of course, verbal jabs are one thing, but physical assault? Well, that's another. Assaulting Jordan Poole. Teammates get into heated altercations and verbal back and forth all the time. There is a famous story of Michael Jordan punching Steve Kerr in the face. But often when teammates do squabble, it can lead to them getting better as a team. After all, competitive spirit is the reason why most of these players make it to the NBA. However, there are some incidents which are so bad that they can't ever fully be mended. This was obvious in the case of Jordan Poole and Draymond Green. Prior to the start of the 2022-2023 season, Poole was thought to be next up, the guy who is going to take over for Steph Curry and become the next main piece for the Warriors franchise. However, just a year later, not only is Poole not the next Steph, but he isn't even wearing a Warriors jersey anymore. And that's all thanks to what Draymond did. During a practice session, there was tension between Draymond and Poole. Rumors have it that Poole is acting a little too big for his britches after helping the Warriors win their fourth title. Draymond and some of the other vets didn't appreciate this. Draymond took it upon himself to do something about Poole's attitude. Instead of sitting the young man down and having a heart-to-heart like a vet should, Draymond did the unthinkable and launched himself at Poole during practice, striking him clean in the jaw and momentarily knocking him out. To make matters worse, the entire thing was caught on camera, and it was published for everyone to see. and what everyone saw was Draymond Green being a toxic teammate. The incident sparked concerns about Draymond's role with the team and his ability to control his emotions, particularly in high-pressure situations. Although Draymond took responsibility for his actions, he did release a small documentary centered around that incident where he tried his best to paint himself as the victim. Talk about being clueless. It was no surprise that Poole had one of his worst seasons in recent memory and seemed to be out of it during games. I mean, who would want to hustle and play their heart out for a guy who had publicly humiliated them? And Poole wasn't the only young player to end up on Draymond's bad side. Issue with Jonathan Kuminga. There was a point in time when the Warriors looked primed to have another decade's worth of success when they drafted young talents like Jordan Poole, Jonathan Kuminga, James Wiseman, and Moses Moody. But now, two of those guys aren't even on the team, and the other two barely get any playing time. When something like this happens, you have to look at the leadership of the team. Steph Curry might be the best player on the Warriors, but Draymond is regarded as the team's leader, their heart and soul. And when you have the team leader admitting that he doesn't even know Kuminga that well publicly, it's a really bad look. Instead of taking Kuminga under his wing and helping the young man figure out his way in the NBA, as other vets did for Draymond, he seems to have left him hanging. Kuminga is seen as the guy that could take over for Draymond with the right guidance, so maybe Draymond saw him as competition and didn't want to share his knowledge with him. Or perhaps Draymond couldn't be bothered to help another player out as he's already won his championships and accolades. Either way, it's pretty disparaging to see all of the young players come into the Warriors system and then fizzle out. To make matters worse, Draymond might be on the precipice of his next toxic beef with the addition of Chris Paul to the Warriors. History with CP3. After Draymond ran Poole out of the Warriors, the front office decided to bring in future Hall of Famer Chris Paul to run the backup point guard position. CP3 is known for his brilliant basketball mind and his competitive spirit. The latter has gotten him into trouble with some of his teammates like Blake Griffin and James Harden. So you have one player who doesn't always play nice with his teammates and another who has assaulted his teammates, and you're bound to see fireworks. Especially when CP3 and Draymond both have had plenty of back and forth during their career. The beef between them goes way back to when CP3 was still a Rocket, although the two of them beefed plenty during the Warriors and Clippers rivalry. The most notable incident happened during a game in January 2018. The Warriors and Rockets were playing each other and Draymond and CP3 got into a heated exchange. The situation got worse when Draymond, surprise surprise, made a few gestures toward CP3. Now, the two are supposed to be cordial toward one another as they attempt to win a championship together. But we can see things taking a turn for the worse if the Warriors don't start off hot. They struggled in recent years, and that's the kind of spark that will make two guys who aren't used to sharing the playmaking or leadership position to go at one another. And if, or more likely when, Draymond loses his cool with CP3, will anyone really be surprised?